Last Saturday night, we gathered under the night sky to sing the songs of Slichot. A late afternoon rain had brought a refreshingly cool breeze, following a relentlessly hot and humid week. It was the first large in-person gathering we had planned since Purim 2020. 120 of us sat in spacious circles, joined by another 120 or so on Zoom. The service opened and closed with ancient words from the Book of Lamentations. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yamenu kekedem. Return us to you, Holy One. We are eager to return. Renew our days to the way things were before, kekedem. These are meant to be words of hope and comfort, words we sing repeatedly throughout these days of awe, words that bridge time. Sitting there singing, I was filled with longing for the way things used to be. I could feel a desperate plea in my heart. Please make things go back to the way they were before COVID. Make it safe for us to gather again in person. I want to return to a world where we are not physical threats to each other. I miss the mitzvah of hachnasat orchim, hosting people in my home. I miss talking to strangers in the park. I want the world to be the way it used to be, kekedem. Sitting under the stars at Slichot, singing these words, the space filled with the resonant harmonies of a community that I love and have missed, I began to cry. This prayer has existed for 3,000 years because it captures a primary human impulse: to want things to be the way they used to be, to long for the days of old. These words were born out of disruption, loss, and uncertainty, times just like the ones we are living through. It was healing to give voice to so much longing. As I allowed the tears to drip behind my mask, I opened my eyes and saw the computer screen with tiny boxes of people singing and swaying with us. And then I thought, well, don't return us exactly to the way things were before. Thinking about all the people who were part of this experience that otherwise would not have been. The community member I knew who was Zooming in from her ICU bed. People who live in remote rural communities. Members in other cities and people home doing childcare were unable to leave their homes for a myriad of reasons. We are better off for having learned how to make our community more accessible, for expanding our circles of connection. We long for return, but not a complete return. The world as we knew it was fundamentally and systematically broken. We are living through a cascade of natural disasters. We felt it acutely here in Philadelphia last week as the Schuylkill River rose to record levels. Who by fire and who by water? Who by disease and who by war? Whose life cut short and whose extended? It did not take COVID-19 for us to recognize that our healthcare system was unjust, or to be aware of the exploitation of essential workers, to see that capitalism was laying waste to communities and to the earth. And long before George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Walter Wallace were murdered, we understood all too well that white supremacy sought to choke the life from Black people and people of color. Don't take us back to the days of the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, or the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, or the violence of Standing Rock. And then I started reimagining what the verse was longing for. Hashivenu, return us, but not to all of that. Chadesh yamenu kekedem, not like the days of old. Make the world new again, like it once was, like creation. Let this be a fresh start, kekedem. There were those brief weeks in early summer when I felt shockingly optimistic. But as COVID cases in the United States continue to rise again, I am starting to feel like the light at the end of the tunnel may be slipping away. If we can't go back to the way things were before COVID, then how do we get through this? On a very personal note, the pandemic has revealed to me in stark relief that I am prone to thinking hard times will never pass. During the birth of our first child, my partner Rosh was in labor for 50 hours. Labor began on a Sunday evening. We spent the night baking a chocolate cake in between contractions, imagining the baby would be born in the morning. She labored all day Monday. She was steadfast and strong. By the second night, I was delirious, but still excited for what was to come. But by the second morning, I had lost myself, forgot what we were even doing. I started thinking that maybe instead of giving birth, Rosh could just go back to being pregnant and we could try again in a week. I actually remember asking our midwife if her body could reabsorb the fetus. I could not see another way out. It seems comical in retrospect, but I can still remember the feeling. There is no way out of these contractions, when certainly there was. Torah is replete with stories in which people cannot see a way out of their unwanted circumstances. Even more than a personal experience or a Jewish experience, this is a profoundly human experience. And we are the inheritors of a deep and wide wisdom tradition. Our collective story is a reminder that we have been here before. Our biblical stories are powerful not because they tell us what happened, but because they tell us what is always happening. Noah didn't know how many days he was going to be in the ark. The Israelites didn't know how many days Moses was going to be on Mount Sinai. And perhaps most iconically, the Israelites had no idea how long they were going to journey through the wilderness. Each of these famous biblical stories shares at least three qualities. The first is that the length of time is equal to the number 40. Be it 40 days or nights or years, 40 represents a fullness of time, which is to say, a seemingly endless period of time. Second, in each of these stories, the people experienced profound doubt, fear, and loss. In the beginning, Noah hesitates to build the ark at all, not really believing that the waters would actually come. Then the Torah explains that even after the waters receded, Noah would not leave the ark until the Holy One literally commanded him to do so, doubting it was safe at all. When the waters receded, he finally emerged, and everything Noah had known was gone. While Moses was up on the mountain, the people gathered at Sinai became convinced he would never return, so unmoored that they reverted to the ways of idolatry and built a golden calf to quell their fears. When Moses returned down the mountain and saw the golden calf, he ordered the Levites to kill 3,000 Israelites. And the Israelites in the wilderness. The Israelites in the wilderness kvetched about everything. If only we had meat to eat. We were better off in Egypt. What, did you bring us out here to die? They complained so much that they started to believe it would be better to go back to Mitzrayim, to be enslaved, than to live with this much uncertainty. As if to say, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem, please God, just make things go back to the way they were, even if they were oppressive. Now for some good news. There is a third quality that each of these stories share. They share the felt sense of, are we there yet? Or even more so, are we ever going to get there? And this felt sense is always actually the beginning of some kind of revelation, which is what I want to explore with you today. What revelation was possible for our ancestors in the midst of their unending uncertainty? And what revelation is possible for us today? So let's begin with our ancestors. What in fact was revealed in each of these stories? We begin with the flood. God tells Noah to enter the ark without telling him when he will leave. This is the biblical shelter in place order we all received last March. It goes on to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And when the waters had finally receded and Noah was sure the ground was dry, he exited the ark. In that moment, the Holy One makes a promise. So long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. And thus the Holy One established a covenant with every living thing on earth, declaring, I will maintain my covenant with you. Never again shall all life be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. We all need to be reminded of these words after last week's storms, which devastated Louisiana and New York and led to record flooding here in Philadelphia. And then the Holy One says, I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And thus the rainbow was revealed. Just a few weeks ago, my kids called from our back alley, come quick, there's a double rainbow in the sky. For about 5 minutes, we were mesmerized by the spectrum of color miraculously displayed above. As far as I'm concerned, a rainbow is a revelation every single time. Second, the story of Sinai. Exodus 19 recounts how the Israelites camped by the base of the mountain, filled with awe and terror. Now Mount Sinai is all in smoke, for the Holy One had come down upon it in fire, and the smoke rises like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain and everyone present trembles violently. The blare of the horn grows louder and louder as Moses speaks, and God answers him in thunder. Then Moses goes up the mountain. While on the mountain, the people grow fearful. They fear not only for their lives, but for their leader, Moses, the one who brought them out of Mitzrayim. They even cry out to Aaron, we do not know what happened to him. When Moses finally descends, every bird, bug, and being is silent. The earth comes to a halt and a hush. Moses' face is glowing, and he is carrying in his arms 2 tablets, upon which are engraved the 10 Commandments. In this moment, Torah itself is revealed. And we were all there for it. It was whispered into our ears, felt into our bones, encoded into our beings. So much so that this moment in Torah is referred to as revelation itself. And finally, what was revealed in the wilderness? 40 years of wandering through the desert. The journey through the wilderness embodied the most profound uncertainty, and it was defined by a near constant cascade of revelation. When the people feared they would have nothing to eat, manna fell from the sky, elevated on the morning dew. And when the people complained of its monotony, the manna transformed, tasting according to one's own desires. When the people feared they would die of thirst, a well of water appeared, providing water for hundreds of thousands of Israelites over the course of their 40-year journey through an arid desert, following them wherever they went, rolling up mountains and down into valleys, and resting at the entrance of their camp. Not to mention the cloud that followed them by day, providing shade from the hot sun, and the fire that warmed them through the cold desert nights. Amidst endless verses of complaining filled with doubt and fear, we learn that the Israelites were quite literally sustained by miracles every day of their journey. And so are we. Amidst our doubt, our fear, and our tremendous losses. Now, in each of these biblical stories, the revelation is unique to its circumstances. But in the rabbinic imagination, they are undoubtedly and deeply connected. We learn in Pirkei Avot that 10 things were created at twilight, just before the first Shabbat. Imagine the haste of the Holy One, rushing to complete the work of creation before pausing to celebrate it on that first Shabbat, as if they were last-minute packing for a trip, throwing into their suitcase anything they thought the world would need, ever. Asara devarim nivra'u be'erev Shabbat bein hashmashot. 10 things were created in that liminal window between the suns of the 6th and 7th days of creation. And wouldn't you know it, each and every one of the revelations from the stories I just told you is on that famous list. Akeshet, the rainbow from Noah. V'haketav, v'hamichtav, v'haluchot, the tablets that Moses carried down the mountain, the writing on the tablets, even the letters themselves were created bein hashmashot, between the suns, just before that first Shabbat. Pi ha'be'er v'haman, the manna and the well in the wilderness. I know some of you lucky people have the chance to study this midrash all year long in detail with the amazing Dr. Elsie Stern. Thank you for letting me benefit from your insights. In preparation for this drash, I surveyed a number of commentaries. And as far as I can tell, for the past 2,000 years, the rabbis have regarded this list as a relatively random collection of miracles that were revealed to the people over time. But I don't think it's random. What connects the items on this list is the stories they come from. And what connects the stories they come from is that they are stories of unending uncertainty and loss. Each of these miraculous revelations appears in the midst of a seemingly unending period of uncertainty. Each one appears when the people involved in the story have lost hope that there will be a way to the other side, a light at the end of the tunnel. Perhaps it is helpful to imagine this teaching from Pirkei Avot as a question in jeopardy. In jeopardy, the questions are actually the answers, and the game is to figure out what question we are answering. The list from Pirkei Avot is the answer to our ancestors' question, which is the same as my question, which perhaps is the same as all of our questions. How do we get through this? This list of revelations was compiled by people living through unending uncertainty, the fall of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, the beginning of exile. And we are the inheritors of their clarity, a clarity that is usually beyond the grasp of those in the midst of the experience. Our study of their stories reveals to us the wisdom and insight that we need in order to live through our story with greater grace, calm, and even an inkling of clarity. Our biblical stories are powerful not because they tell us what happened, but because they tell us what is always happening. Our collective story is a reminder that we have been here before and we will be here again. These stories aren't history, and they aren't mythology. They are paradigms. And now is a great time to study these paradigms, which we have inherited, to develop the skills we need to be able to navigate the uncertainty of our wilderness. This pandemic, warming temperatures, rising sea levels, drought, famine, coupled with restrictive voting rights and the rise of authoritarian governments around the globe. Much like the Israelites, we don't know how long we are going to be here. Now, we have explored what revelation was possible for our ancestors in the midst of their wilderness. So what revelation is possible for us? According to Maimonides, every miraculous thing that has ever been revealed was programmed into creation, integrated into the cosmos, which means that the list of 10 things that the Holy One created at twilight before the first Shabbat, like all other lists, it's not exhaustive, it is representative. The list of miraculous revelations in the wilderness exists to help us realize that the things we need are not only possible, but they are already here. Even, especially if we don't know what they are. They already exist. The things we need already exist. Sadly, I am not a prophet. I so wish I could tell you what these things are. I can't. Trust me, I've tried. What I do know is that whatever it is available to us. It will appear when we need it most. And if Maimonides is right, then it is already here, within us and within our world. To quote the agrarian poet Wendell Berry, "Geese appear high over us. They pass and the sky closes. Abandon, as in love or sleep, holds them to their way, clear in the ancient faith. What we need is here. And we pray not for new earth or heaven, but to be quiet in heart and quiet in eye and clear. What we need is here. What we need is here." Now, if this is well beyond the scope of your theology, I am confident you are in very good company. And if you are thinking, yeah, but what is it that's here? Give me something I can hold in the palm of my hand. Give me something of this world. I am sure you are certainly not alone. That beloved list of 10 things that the Holy One squeezed into creation in the last moments before the clock ran out, just as the sun was beginning to set on the 6th day before Shabbat, that lucky list, it includes a bonus track beginning V'yesh omrim. And some say, which is to say there wasn't complete consensus, but we like the marginal voices. So let's go with this one. V'yesh omrim, and some say, af tzivat bitzvat asuya. And some say even tongues that were used to make tongues were created in those final moments of creation. Yes, you heard me. The punchline of this midrash is tongues. Let me remind you that the tongs we are talking about are not pressed out of aluminum like the ones you get at the store these days. I've got a pair right here. They are forged, which means that a person must hold white hot iron and beat it with a hammer in order to make it into tongs. But to do so, you need to hold that hot iron with something, with tongs. So where did that first pair of tongs come from? This seems like a good time to tell you this is my all-time favorite kitchen utensil, and this midrash is very affirming for this reason. So where did that first pair of tongs come from? For which the midrash offers this answer. From the final moments of creation. And if we read the midrash closely, we can see it was not just tongs that were created, but tongs that were used to make other tongs. Tzvat bitzvat asuya. Woven into the fabric of creation was the ability to create the tools that we need to survive and sustain ourselves. To actually hold white hot iron and forge it into something workable. I am not literally suggesting that my kitchen tongs are going to get us through climate collapse and a pandemic, though I don't want to go through it without them. Their presence on this list and in our world represents the tools we need to develop the resilience and creativity to survive this much uncertainty and loss. Tongs represent the internal mechanism of human beings to create for ourselves what we need when we need it. Because what we need is here. And if it isn't, we will make it so. Tongs represent the ability to create a world that embodies real wholeness, a world that is wholly just, like maybe it never was before. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem. Return us to you, Holy One, and we will return. Renew our days, renew our world, kekedem, like we long for it to be, like it is in our dreams. Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Every single day, including today, the work of creation is renewed. On this Rosh Hashanah, may the call of the shofar stir in us the courage to unclench our grip and trust that everything we need to get through this unsettling time is not in the heavens or in some faraway place out beyond our reach. Whatever it is already here, in our hearts, in these rooms, in our community. Añada buena, dulce y alegre, leshana tova tikatevu. May each and every one of us be inscribed for a year of life.